What we just saw unfold in the Oval Office at the White House was total diplomatic failure.
The war,
You're not
Mr.
in a
Brown,
good position. You don't have the
there.
cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
Right? You're
Speak about
gambling
what
with
is
World
speaking
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country.
Meetings between world leaders are typically very carefully choreographed, planned in advance, controlled.
Thank you, dear Donald. Cher Donald.
And it is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter.
But this was chaos on an international scale.
I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
The exchange that threatens to end whatever was left of a genuinely cordial relationship between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelenskyy lasted about 10 minutes. I'm going to explain how it started and how it ended.
It is so stunning, and I'm still sort of processing it.
Trump and Zelenskyy are not friends. Regarding the war in Ukraine, Trump believes the U.S. has wasted its money.
He was never in the good books with Trump, never.
Biden was throwing money around like it's cotton candy.
He has accused Zelenskyy of being a dictator and even of being the one who started the war, which is plainly not true.
Today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it.
Today's meeting was meant to begin a new chapter of sorts, and for a time, it looked like that might happen.
We can help Europe because Europe really helped. They really gave a lot, Mr. President.
They did.
Really, they did.
They gave a lot, but they gave much less.
No.
Much less.
No. No.
Don't argue with me.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Zelenskyy flew to the United States to sign a deal handing over mineral rights as a way of locking arms with the United States. But over the course of their joint appearance, fielding questions from reporters, we started to see cracks.
Putin broken 25 times. 25 times. He broken his own signature. 25 times he broken ceasefire.
But he never broke to me. He never broke to me.
No, you were the president.
He
You
never
were the
broke-
president
he
during.
never broke to me.
In 2016, you've been the president, Mr. President.
And it was quickly becoming obvious this was an uncomfortable partnership.
But a lot of cities have been destroyed. A lot of cities that are not recognizable. There's not a building standing.
No.
And a lot of
You have to come,
things have
Mr.
to happen.
President. You have to come and to look. No. We have very good cities. Ukraine is fighting and Ukraine lives. This is very important. And maybe it's Putin is sharing this information that he destroyed us.
I mean, everyone knew that this is going to be very tense. I didn't think it was going to be as tense as it was because they're not on the same page.
But there was one question in particular from a Polish reporter that seemed to push Trump into a corner. But watch Zelenskyy during this exchange when he enters the frame.
I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either.
This is an incredibly provocative thing to tell a world leader whose country has been invaded, subject to a deadly war for more than 3 years. But it wasn't Trump's comment here that fully triggered Zelenskyy. It was an insistence from the vice president, J.D. Vance, that Putin could be reasoned with.
The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
This can I ask you moment where he's about to ask J.D. Vance directly what diplomacy are you talking about? Is the exact moment, after more than 40 minutes of doing more listening than talking, where Zelenskyy seems to have decided he had heard enough. He decided to push back, pointing out that years after Putin annexed Crimea by force in 2014, Ukraine tried to negotiate.
You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire.
Ultimately, that ceasefire, agreed to in 2019, it didn't hold. Russia, at various times, accused Ukraine of breaking the terms of their agreements.
The Russians say that's in part why they attacked in 2022, because Ukrainians weren't implementing it.
Zelenskyy, however, sees things very differently.
After that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
This was the beginning of the end.
Do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this.
you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
It broke new ground in the world of diplomacy. We have never seen something as stark as that. It was like all gloves came off. This has never happened before like this. It's not the norm.
It was two people berating Zelenskyy and castigating him for not responding to what they were saying without actually giving him a chance to respond to what they were saying. This was by no means a conversation. This was a ritualized humiliation.
It really didn't take long for both sides to completely come apart. Remember, J.D. Vance was trying to make the point that war hasn't worked, and now's the time for diplomacy. Zelenskyy was arguing diplomacy actually came first, and it didn't work either. But from then on, neither side seemed interested in talking anymore, just arguing.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
I'm not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think
You're gambling with World War III.
what do you
You're
think about?
gambling with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with
back
all
to
respect
you.
to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once?
Yes, that's where this all went. Two presidents and a vice president arguing over who was disrespecting whom, and have you even said thank you once?
He was being shouted at by both Trump and Vance to kind of disabuse him, if you will, of his position that he came in with. So major shock effect, reality check.
We gave you military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course he has.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
It was shocking and disgraceful. I've never seen anything like it. It's truly remarkable that that could have happened at all.
The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. You're either going to make a deal or we're out.
So after all this, there was a half-hearted attempt to take questions again, to get things back on track. But that lasted about 2 minutes and 10 seconds before Trump said, "We're done here."
But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that.
We're seeing an absurd pivot that I think most of us in North America would never have thought was possible.
Zelenskyy would have to essentially change his tune radically to get Trump's favor.
There are media reports that Zelenskyy and his team were ordered out of the White House, and Trump himself posted this on social media. President Zelenskyy is not ready for peace. He disrespected the United States of America in its cherished Oval Office. He can come back when he is ready for peace. To which Zelenskyy would reply just under an hour later, perhaps with the gratitude Trump and Vance were seeking. Thank you, America. Thank you for your support. Thank you for this visit. Thank you, POTUS, Congress, and the American people.
He has to keep trying to get on Trump's good side, and I suspect that he will continue trying.
Now, it's not clear what it would take to restore the relationship between Zelenskyy and Trump, but what happened today, a disagreement on this scale, in full public view, is not ever supposed to happen.